I have with us Larry R. Macklin. He is an author, a licensed clinical laboratory scientist, an MBA, and a project management professional. He has experience with law enforcement officers. Larry,
Yes.
tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Well, I started out in the clinical laboratory working. I became hematology manager and then assistant administrative director, and saw an opportunity and moved over into information technology. And from there, I switched jobs and went to work for a computer software company in Kansas City. Kansas City figures into one of the novels. And one of my first clients in working with them was LA County Sheriff's Department, which is the largest sheriff's department in the world. So I picked up some lingo, some information from there. The laboratory background is something I like to work in when I can, because I think it's a lot of fun, the science of it. And other than that, became project manager for the computer software company, leading projects.
Very good, very broad experience.
Yes.
Now, what inspired you to write about a nun, Sister Mercy?
Well, that's interesting. What actually inspired me was thinking, what would it be like to write a story where I forced an agnostic and a true believer together? What would that situation look like? So that started it off, and my initial attempt was really bad, so I shredded that. And what I decided was, what would people find interesting? What if they were in a really dangerous situation together and had to lean on each other to get out of it? So that was the impetus in going down that storyline.
Now, did you envision this as a trilogy to begin with, or did that evolve after you wrote the first book?
No, actually, I had to be convinced by friends to pursue a second and third book. What I was really surprised at was the second book really was something I loved doing, and I was able to bring in a lot of personal background into that story. There are a lot of pieces in there from my own personal experience rather than professional experience that I was able to embed in that book.
Okay, good. Now, you have 3 books that are tied together. Now, is there an overarching philosophy in this trilogy?
I would think the biggest message that's conveyed is the fact that maybe you should never really give up hope, that things can work out, and sometimes even when you think it's absolutely impossible for them to. So I think that message of hope is kind of threaded through all of that, even though there's lots of tragedy, and Sarah Bennington expenses way more than her share, but she also helps others that have had tragic things in their lives. And when we lean on each other, that's when we really can succeed.
Oh, very good. So there is hope in the world.
There is hope in the world.
That's what you're trying to tell us.
That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Okay, very good. Okay. What do you believe the reader should gain after reading one of your novels, or even after all 3?
Well, other than the desire to buy another one of my books, I think what I'm trying to communicate is hopefulness, that, and also the fact that people can do things. There are things each of us can do for each other, even if it's a passing smile or anything else, or giving somebody a few dollars when they need it. The thing that you'll find in these books is that when you come to somebody's assistance, it almost always ends up being a positive. And that's a message I always try to strive for.
When you envisioned the Sister Mercy character, what was your vision of her purpose?
Well, really, her purpose is something that she's lost, in effect. What she's really doing up until the end is trying to escape. She's had tragedy in her life, and this sort of cycles back time-wise. It's not a chronological sequence in the three novels, but you'll find that she's gone through way more than any of us would ever experience, and somehow comes out of it. She pulls herself out of it, and in the end, the universe rewards her.
What event or sequence of events led you to writing mystery stories rather than some other kind of a book, and in particular, mystery stories about a Catholic nun?
Well, the Catholic nun part, I have to admit, is part marketing as well as anything else, because the subtitle for the first book is really the elements that I wanted to use as key words for people to find the book and to try and generate interest in it, because it is, after all, a first book. So that was the key up. But the thing that was the challenge for me, and really what made writing these books so much fun, was where do I go from here? Okay, she's gone this far, now what? Okay, she's gone this far, now what? So I've taken her from beginning to end, more or less, and in these three books, and I had a lot of fun doing it.
As you were writing these books, did you have an overall plan in mind or an outline, or did they just evolve from one scene to another in your imagination?
Well, they actually did evolve. I didn't have an outline for any of it. I had a fundamental outline, and like some others, I assume that, when you're having dinner or you're sitting quietly or doing something else, in the back of your mind, you're thinking about scenes. You're thinking about things that could happen, or what if this happened? How would that work out? And I've heard people use the term stream of consciousness. I'm not terribly comfortable with that, because it sounds like you're just putting down whatever the heck you thought of at the moment. But it was thoughtful, but it wasn't outlined. So and part of the fun of it was finding yourself in certain situations and then trying to develop a creative way out of it. I've heard other authors talk about writing books and having characters not behave the way they had planned, and I experienced some of that. I really thought they do know what they're talking about. It does happen.
Now, your background is in science and law enforcement and management. Did you include in your stories the scientific skills or the law enforcement experiences that you had in your career?
For the behavior and some of the technical stuff, I actually used a combination of people that I knew in the Sheriff's Department and also what I researched online in certain specific technical details. I've also used lab experience in terms of the forensic analyst that I introduced in the first book, Mackenzie, and had her interact with the detective. And so I leveraged it. It's not overburdening, it's not a lot, but it adds a little flavor to the storyline.
And how about experiences in your travels? Because one of your books includes a lot of detail about foreign places.
Well, I never traveled to those foreign places, and I felt I was running a real risk, but I researched the heck out of it. One of the impetuses for doing that was I was hunting for a tragedy for Sarah Bennington, something so significant that it could make her do the things that she did, run away from tragedy whenever it happens. And I came across a massacre in Mazar-e-Sharif, which is a city in northern Afghanistan. And I include a reference for the reader in the book that they can go out and research. It was in the 90s, and it was a pretty terrific slaughter in the town. They even shot pets. And I thought that's the kind of thing that would do it. That has a significant enough impact that it would really affect somebody.
And did it work?
I hope so.
How has your experience in writing this trilogy influenced your writing for your next book?
Well, I have a real interest in crime novels. I was toying with the idea of maybe switching over and trying to do something in science fiction, but I have so much fun with crime novels. I like crime police shows. I can't tell you how many times I've watched the same episode of Blue Bloods over again until a new one gets posted. But FBI and those things, I love those shows. So I've always found it of interest because there's always some unique twist or unique turn to something that somebody has to find out. Somebody has to unravel things. And I think that's a fun thing to write about.
Well, Larry, thank you so much for your interview. I really appreciate it. I've learned a lot, and I hope you enjoyed it.
Well, thank you so much. The first book in the Trilogy series is Sister Mercy, a Catholic nun crime romance novel. The second in the series is Heartstead, and the third and final book of Sister Mercy is Reclamation. Hopefully you'll enjoy all of them.